and we're starting here in France. The change at the top of Peugeot Citroën.
That's right, the struggling car maker that we've talked so much about over the last year or so. This news, in fact, was confirmed yesterday after there are a series of rumours and press reports. Carlos Tavares is the man we're talking about. He was the number 2 at Peugeot's rival here in France, Renault. Well, he will now join the management board at Peugeot Citroën on January the 1st, set to take over as chief executive later in the year. Well, Jonathan Crane has been taking a closer look at the man who will take over at the top.
Carlos Tavares wanted the role of top dog, and now he's got it. He'll replace Philippe Varin as Peugeot Citroën's CEO next year. His task at Peugeot: stem billions of euros in losses and expand global operations to reduce Peugeot's reliance on declining European markets.
By choosing Carlos Tavares, the supervisory board ensures that the strategy of recovery and development to overcome the current crisis will continue to be executed over the long term.
55-year-old Tavares previously worked as chief operating officer at Peugeot's rivals Renault-Nissan, but left acrimoniously in the summer when he said in a Bloomberg interview that he'd rather move to another manufacturer than wait for his mentor, the CEO Carlos Ghosn, to retire.
Anyone who is passionate about the auto industry comes to a conclusion that there is a point where you have the energy and appetite for a number 1 position.
As well as ambition, Tavares boasts a wealth of experience. After graduating from the École Centrale de Paris, the fluent French speaker worked his way up the ranks at Renault, most recently helping to develop a range of luxury sports cars. His links with Chinese carmaker Dongfeng could also come in handy as Peugeot looks to attract capital investment. Last year it announced a record loss of €5 billion and was forced to close its Aulnay factory, part of a wider plan to cut more than 11,000 jobs by 2015.
Jonathan Crane reporting there. Well, shares in Peugeot Citroën were actually up 5% yesterday, partly on that news, but also something else going on. That deal that was done on the nuclear program, on Iran's nuclear program in Geneva, actually helping things as well, because as part of that, sanctions on the auto sector are going to be eased. And in fact, Iran was Peugeot's second biggest car market after France. So that could potentially be good news for them. Same story for Renault, which also had a pretty healthy market in Iran. And as you can see, their shares also up 1.4% by the end of trading on Monday. Well, other sectors as well are set to gain from that deal on the nuclear program, as this analyst now explains.
So the European leisure sector has been boosted on the back of it. The airline stocks are a little bit better. Air France, EasyJet, British Airways have all done well. But I think the companies that seem to have come out of this best, or the ones that are most looking forward to it, are some of the French car manufacturers who did have a bit of a space in this market before the sanctions were put in place.
OK, well, let's get some of the day's other company news now. And Argentina says that it's prepared to do a deal with the Spanish oil giant Repsol. Now, that's over its nationalisation of the oil company YPF, owned by Repsol, in April last year. Repsol's been asking for $10.5 billion in compensation, has been pursuing Argentina in the courts. The two parties will now work on a deal.
Changes at the top of smartphone maker BlackBerry. Senior executives, including the chief operating officer and the head of marketing, will leave. That follows the appointment of John Chen as an interim chief executive. BlackBerry is cutting 4,500 jobs as it struggles to turn around the loss-making business.
And the American news presenter Katie Couric has been hired by Yahoo. Couric hosted the NBC Today show before anchoring the evening news on rival channel CBS. Well, Yahoo boss Marissa Mayer said that Couric will be the face of Yahoo News. The company's been beefing up its news operation with a number of senior hires.
Well, on the markets, the Japanese stock market closed down Tuesday.
Yes, that's right, Karen. It closed down a short while ago. That was after we saw some gains on Monday. As always, the yen, the rise and fall of the yen playing a big role because of the impact it has on exporters. So you can see red and green there in the Asian markets. Not a clear sense of which way to head. The Shanghai Composite as well, slightly down by the end of trading.
OK, thanks very much for that, Matthew Warren, Business News. Thank you. Well, finally, a chunk of one of the best-known structures in Paris was up for sale yesterday. And Matthew's still here.
I can't leave, Karen. I want to talk about this. This is about, as you're saying, a very famous structure here in Paris, the Eiffel Tower, and 19 steps from it went on sale yesterday. You might ask why. Well, in fact, they were steps that were taken out of the original structure when they had to replace them with an elevator for safety reasons. Well, there you can see them, 19 steps in all their glory. They sold for 220,000 euros, and a quick bit of calculating worked out 11,500 euros per step there. Very special ones. Let's listen to the man who was heading up that sale.
This staircase was dismantled and cut into several segments, one of which you see here. Another one was kept there as a memory of that staircase. Obviously now there are elevators, so it's a small piece, 3.5 meters of the staircase belonging to the most emblematic tower on the planet.
Well, thank you very much for that, Matthew. Interesting stories there. So that was the business news. Now it's time for web news. And trending on social networks, pro-Europe protests in Ukraine, and the anonymous protest group targets Japan over whaling.
Protesters have renamed Kiev's Maidan Nezalnosti, or Independence Square, Euromaidan. Activists have set up tents there and have been camping out over the past few days. It's a highly symbolic place. This square was the epicenter of the 2004 Orange Revolution. Demonstrators are protesting the government decision made under pressure from Russia to scrap plans to sign an agreement that would have strengthened ties with the European Union. The movement has been widely coordinated via social networks, and a site's been set up to post and share messages and pictures sent in from some of the tens of thousands of protesters who have been joining demonstrations since last Friday, urging the government to build closer ties with Europe. Some posts bear witness to the clashes with riot police, notably when protesters tried to block entry to the government building in Kiev. And rallies are also taking place outside the Ukrainian capital. One activist has set up an interactive map to visualize demonstrations taking place across the country and the rest of the world. Paris, Rome, Vienna. Ukrainians living abroad have also taken to the streets over the past few days to show their support for this pro-European movement. Stop the Slaughter. Hacker group Anonymous has launched a campaign against dolphin and whale hunting programs in Japan. The hacktivists have posted this video online denouncing the butchery and reminding viewers that commercial whaling is forbidden under international law, but Tokyo benefits from a legal flaw that allows whaling for scientific purposes. Anonymous is not prepared to accept this, however, and is threatening to launch cyber attacks on 20 or so websites affiliated to the Japanese government, including the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. Web users the world over are encouraged to exert pressure on the authorities by taking part in a day of action on December 1st, when activists will inundate social networks with messages condemning the hunting of whales and dolphins, both endangered species threatened with extinction if the slaughter continues. As we can see from these photos posted to Facebook, activists have also been busy in Japan and regularly take to the streets to urge their political representatives to put a stop to the hunting. Hunting that continues in the southwestern fishing village of Taiji. The NGO Sea Shepherd has a team stationed there at the moment, and they've been posting images online every single day, attesting to the annual dolphin drive hunt, which began back in September. Web users in India are fascinated by the story of Arushi, the 13-year-old girl who was found dead 5 years ago in her bedroom at her parents' home in New Delhi. One of the family's domestic workers was also found dead, and all sorts of rumours and speculations have been rife ever since. With an Indian court recently convicting the teenager's parents of the double murder, the online debate continues, with netizens questioning the slow progress and conditions of the inquiry and criticising the police, which failed to secure a crime scene at the time, meaning anyone, and that includes the media, can access it. Michelangelo unveiling David, his new sculpture. Isaac Newton posing with the apple that inspired his theory of gravity. And the first concert given by the Quarrymen before they became the Beatles. This blog is called Histograms and imagines how history could have been told through photos and messages if social networks and smartphones existed at the time. Packed with planned anachronisms, it provides a fun take on history. Ever felt like dancing to the same song throughout the day? Well, now you can with a new video from Pharrell Williams, and for Happy, his first solo single in 7 years, the American rapper wanted to make an impact. Available on a dedicated website, this is the world's first 24-hour music video. An interactive clip that features no less than 336 dancers getting down to Happy at different times of the day and night.
Well, that's it for now. We'll have more news coming up for you. Do stay with us here on France 24.